Hello, this is Hannah Canning, Safety Advisor with the Construction Safety Association. I'd like to take a few minutes of your time now just to discuss ladder safety. So when we think about ladders, this is something that we are using on a daily basis, whether at home, but especially at work. So it's really important that we just take a bit of time to go over some information and about safe usage and to make sure that we're practicing it at home as well as at work. When we look at some of the numbers here, and this is some information that was gathered from Workplace NL as well as Service NL, and it's looking at the period of time between 2015 and 2019. So if we look here, we can see that in this time period, there were 610 workers in the industry who received medical aid or lost time from work as a result of a fall, and unfortunately, 4 workers had lost their lives. When we look at the costs to the industry, we can see that this resulted in $37.6 million in claim costs. And then when we look at the time aspect, the falls result in or had resulted in 49,744 weeks of lost work for employees and lost productivity for employers. Another area that I'd just like to highlight here for you guys is just looking at the falls by type. So we have our top 8 category, and if you actually look at that, and if we see the top 2 or the second one coming in lead there, we can see that falls from ladder comes in second there. So it's just good to know that a lot of us use ladders on a regular basis, and this is definitely one of the areas where we really have to be diligent in making sure that we're aware of what we're doing and we take the time to assess the situation before we start working. Okay, so what I got up here is just references to the legislation, and I'm not going to go in depth here, but I just want to make sure that everyone is aware where this information is coming from. So first and foremost, when we look at portable ladders, in particular, you're looking at sections 151 through 154 of the regulations. And a portable ladder is defined as one that can be readily moved or carried and usually consists of side rails joined at intervals by steps, rungs, cleats, or rear braces. When we think of certain aspects about ladders, first and foremost, they are not work platforms. They're designed for accessing. And ideally, before using or thinking of using a ladder, we should assess the situation and think, is this an area where it would be better to use a scaffold or an elevating work platform? However, that's not always the reality of the situation. So this is when we have to make sure as employers, supervisors, and workers that we assess the hazards associated with using that ladder use before we perform work. The other thing to take into account, of course, is that we have to make sure that we're only using CSA approved ladders. Okay. So another thing, just before I get into it, before we use the ladder, what are some of the things that we have to make sure that we do? We have to make sure that we inspect it prior to use, that we set it up properly, that we make sure it's on a firm level base. We make sure that it's of sufficient length so that it projects above the upper landing. And generally, we're looking at least a meter there. And we never work from the top 2 rungs, and we have to make sure that we maintain our center of gravity, but also our 3 points of contact. When we look at our common types of portable ladders, you can see here we have our step ladder and, of course, our extension ladder. So we know whether, whatever type of ladder you're using, we have to inspect for prior use. We have to make sure that it is CSA approved. But when we look at, say, for example, the step ladder there, we want to make sure as well, after our inspection, looking for those defects or damage, that we make sure the area at the base of the ladder is clear. We have to ensure that the spreader arms lock securely in the open position. Want to make sure that you're standing no higher than the second step from the top. And of course, that you don't straddle the space between a step ladder and another point. As well, when you're standing on the ladder, avoid leaning forward, backward, or to either side. Always open the ladder fully before use. And don't use an unopened step ladder as a straight or extension ladder. The feet on these ladders are not designed for this type of use. As well, never, ever, ever stand on the top step, the top, or the pale shelf of a step ladder. So now when we're looking at our extension ladder there that you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, once again, you want to make sure that you're maintaining that center of gravity between the side rails. We want to avoid climbing the ladder while carrying anything. You want to make sure that your boots, your footwear is free of mud, snow, grease, or anything else that could potentially create, reduce your grip on your footwear there. Always hold onto the ladder with at least one hand. Never straddle the space between the ladder and another object. Never erect ladders on unstable surfaces. And of course, you have to ensure that you do not rest a ladder on any of its rungs. Ladders must rest on their side rails, and look out, of course, for those overhead obstructions. So, for example, if we think about like power lines and that sort of nature. So, just look into that inspection and kind of thinking a bit of a checklist of things that you want to do before you start work or before you use the ladder. So the first things first is, we got to check the ladder from the base and the top. Are there any parts that are splintered or any other defects? Are we missing, or do we have any broken rungs, broken cracked rails? Does it look like it's worn, damaged, or missing feet? Can we see any worn or damaged extension ladder locks or pulleys? Is the extension ladder rope frayed? Are any replaced parts inferior to the original? Are the spreader arms on the step ladder, are they bent or broken? Or is there anything that could compromise a secure tie-off? So if we find that the ladder that we were thinking of using is defective, well, we have to make sure then that it's taken out of service and it's either tagged for repaired or completely scrapped. So if we're tagging it, the ladder cannot be used until it is repaired. And of course, when you think about the tag, obviously it should be highly visible in big bold letters with danger, do not use. All right, just coming back to this, 3-point contact. So you heard me talk about this earlier, so now's an opportunity just to talk about it once again. So when we think about our 3-point contact, we have to make sure that we're using our ladder safely. We want to make sure that we're always using that 3-point of contact. So when you think of it like your 2 feet, 1 hand, 2 hands, 1 feet, we always, always, always want to face the ladder when we're climbing up and down. And of course, once again, we don't want to carry any tools or equipment when we are climbing. Other than that, I have to just reiterate the fact that, once again, you do not want to work from the top 2 rungs of a portable ladder or extension ladder, or the top 2 steps of a step ladder, okay? The other thing, when we think about, working from a ladder without fall protection, just keep in mind what the regulations, what the law requires. So it says that a worker can only work from a portable ladder without fall protection where, so just remember this, where the work is light duty task and of short duration at each location, that your center of gravity is maintained between the ladder side rails. And of course, and this is an important thing as well, that we think about where the ladder is positioned. We have to make sure that it's not positioned near an edge or floor opening that would significantly increase the potential fall distance. Okay, so we have to keep those things in mind. So that concludes my discussion. So I really appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to me droning on here about ladder safety. However, it definitely is a critical topic to discuss. I'm sure a lot of us have unfortunately had some pretty close calls with regards to ladder use. So it's really something that we have to be mindful of and take the time to ensure that we are appropriately inspecting and setting up and using our ladders, and we don't kind of misuse, mistreat, or abuse them. further than that, I just wanted to let you know that if you ever were looking for a little bit more information or some sample toolbox talks, you can see, for example, there that I have up on the screen one regarding step ladders and one further going into further information about 3-point contactive ladders. Please just visit our resources that are listed on our website there. And once again, thanks for taking the time to listen to me, guys, and have an awesome day.
The Newfoundland and Labrador Construction Safety Association, or NLCSA, has partnered with Workplace NL and the Occupational Health and Safety Division of the Department of Digital Government and Service NL to promote Fall Prevention Awareness Week. Aimed at the construction industry, Fall Prevention Awareness Week will take place from May 31st to June 4th, 2021, with a goal of raising awareness about fall hazards and how they can be eliminated or mitigated, and promoting a positive workplace culture relating to fall prevention. Visit nlcsa.com and click on the Fall Prevention Awareness Week banner to access a host of resources to raise fall hazard awareness and their prevention. Many work-related injuries and illness result from falls, not only from height, but ground level as well. Visit our website throughout the week to check out our live webinars, virtual toolbox talks, safe work procedures, and much more.